Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop, Emerald Planet. All the ecology news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's your host, Executive Director of the Emerald Planet, Dr. Sam Lee Hancock.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. and the United States as we look around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technologies, the services, and the products that are making a difference as we go through the 21st century. And we're looking at a very special area of the United States, looking at serving the Navajo and the Hopi elders out in the western part of the United States to bring renewable energy sources to provide the sanitation, the water, food production, everything else that's needed to bring the people that have lived on these very isolated areas for many generations into really the 21st century. And we have someone who's really been a leader in this whole effort. She's coming to us by telephone. This is Elsa Johnson. She's the director of what's called the ENA Solutions and also the project manager for the Plateau Solar and Wind Project on the Navajo Nation. And sitting right beside me is Michael G. Lee, who is senior partner of Tower Up Consulting. And Mike, welcome back.
Sam, it's wonderful to be back here with you.
Always good to have you here, and this is all part of the Power for Peace project as well. And Elsa, I understand you're now with us?
Yes. Hello.
Hello, we can hear you. Welcome to the Emerald Planet TV.
Thank you.
Okay, you're getting some feedback there, Elsa, and the engineers will try to monitor that. Tell us a little bit about ENA Solutions, what actually ENA really means in Navajo, and then also the mission of your organization.
ENA is in Navajo means life, and so I established the humanitarian organization to address a lot of these issues that are not only elders, but people, our tribal members are living in off-grid areas, remote areas. And the mission statement for ENA Solutions is to improve the quality of life for Navajo members challenged by the lack of clean water, electricity, and lack of employment. And ENA Solutions promotes alternative energy solutions that meet the basic human needs, including green jobs training, college internships through solar, wind, and energy efficiency solutions.
Well, I tell you, it's a very comprehensive program that you've established there, and it's we just want to say thank you for all the work you're doing, because many of the people that you're dealing with, specifically the elders, have the wisdom and knowledge of the ancients that we really need to be carrying forth into the 21st century, because as you know, Elsa, from the work that you've been doing and being raised in that area, there's so much we're actually relearning about the earth and about the connection with humankind. And I think many of the elders that you have really understand this, and anything they can share with the greater society is really appreciated. But tell us about renewable energy, how you became interested in that, and then also you have this very special relationship with a gentleman that we've come to know through actually some news articles that we read about you, Mark Snyder and the Mark Snyder Electric Company. Tell us about this, all this relationship that you have, and then we'll get into more specifics of the projects there on the nation.
Sure. I met Mark Snyder when I was helping manage the Extreme Makeover Home Edition show on Navajo in 2007. And at that time, he and Al Rich, who you also had previously on the show, both of them approached me while I was, working there with, the whole show. And they said, we would love to come back and try to help in some way, just to try to help some of the folks here. And I think they saw for themselves a huge needs as far as lack of infrastructure and lack of basic human needs there. And with Mark, he was our he and Elle were our solar supplier for that project, and I do know that he's had years of expertise in solar, and he's very conscientious, and he's a huge humanitarian, very innovative, and he's very stringent about upholding standards in everything he does. And so for that reason, we stayed in touch. And so, and then we finally, I think in 2010, we started to really make reality what we had said. And so that's how I met Mr. Snyder, and he's like a brother to me. But we're very focused. Everything we do is, very detailed and planned, and then we don't like to waste any money. We make sure that we do our rollouts very economically, and we are very much, have a good program together at Big Hawk. So the reason I am interested in renewables is, frankly, my tribe is the largest supplier of coal and also uranium, and we have had a lot of adverse impacts as a result of that. And so, since solar's come on the scene, we're some of us grassroots folks are very much about looking into alternative methods, cleaner, non-invasive methods of power. And so I'm one of those grassroots folks, and we have quite a number of them that have been very active in our Native communities, and then especially on Navajo Nation and Hopi as well.
Well, we're looking at this photograph of you out here digging, and this very hard-packed, what looks like clay, getting ready to put in either a solar array or maybe the wind tower. And that's a very unforgiving environment that you're in. But we're going to play this 2-minute clip that you provided for us about your project. And so we're going to bring this up now, Elsa, and then we'll be back with you for a few more questions. If we can bring up the clip.
The hot air panels on top is the hot water heater, and then we have a 500-gallon water tank inside, and so the family does not have to haul water in 55-gallon barrels, 3 and 2 times a week, and then we have a big water heater inside too, so the family can shower, they can wash their face, and then of course we have the compost toilet. And then our tracking system is one that follows the sun all day, so we get 40% more energy that we can store. And so we've really designed this from after some intense field studies that we took up here. I'm the director of Enough Solutions, which is a nonprofit humanitarian and environmental justice organization, and my focus is to help rural off-grid elders and people that are underserved, underprivileged individuals and families. Enough Solutions, Ina in Navajo means life, and what my mission, or the mission of Enough Solutions, is to help situations like this, people that will never have electricity or running water. And we are doing so, we're delivering running water, electricity, solar electricity via clean energy. And I'm very proud of the fact that we can actually improve lives using clean energy as opposed to fossil fuels. The hot air panels on top is the hot water heater.
The first, Elsa, that's a very meaningful video that you have there. Great summary and gives an idea of the technologies. And that's going to lead us right in, Michael, to your question.
Elsa, I want to tell you it's a real pleasure to be on the show with you here today. Can you tell me what some of the unique features of life by the elders on the Navajo Nation and how the renewable energy systems impact their lives on the nation?
Well, I don't think it's just the elders. This first grant that we had was specifically for elders, but we'd love to apply this to everyone that is off-grid, and because we have over 20,000 tribal members still living without running water or electricity. Wow. And so we designed and engineered our system and to really address not just power source, but to also address the clean water and then sanitation as well. And so, like I said previously, we did a field study, and we saw that these people that were not that, they just put up systems and then they go away, and the families are just left to themselves without any training. And so we saw all of these issues, and they were 1 kilowatt systems, and sometimes they were just basically most of them were mounted on the roofs, and these homes are substandard and they cannot withstand, they don't really have the wherewithal to hold those panels. So we decided that we really needed to go above and beyond. And so we, with the 2 kilowatt solar, and then now we've also combined the wind, 1 kilowatt. So total we have 3 kilowatt system as opposed to 1. And so
Elsa, we're absolutely running out of time. I got about 10 seconds. What do you see for the growth of your organization over the next 5, 10, 15 years? And you have to be quick.
I hope that we can expand our program further into Navajo, and like I said, we have over 3,000 families still without electricity and running water, even though our coal is supplying.
This is Elsa Johnson, who is the Director of ENA Solutions and Project Manager for the Plateau Solar and Wind Project, and this is Michael G. Lee sitting right beside me. And thank you for being with us as we look how we're bringing solutions to the nations as we create the Emerald Planet.
I need a job.
Necesito trabajo.
I would like to speak English better.
Me gustaría hablar inglés mejor.
I want to be a U.S. citizen.
Quisiera ser ciudadano de los Estados Unidos.
For over 35 years,
Por más de 35 años,
the Hispanic Committee of Virginia has been serving our community.
el Comité Hispano de Virginia ha estado sirviendo a nuestra comunidad.
Job training and placement,
Capacitación, ayuda para conseguir trabajo,
education for children and adults,
educación para niños y adultos,
immigration, naturalization, and medical referrals.
ayuda para los procesos de inmigración y naturalización y orientación sobre médicos
Are a small part of what we do.
son solo una pequeña parte de lo que hacemos.
For help, information, or to volunteer,
Para ayuda, información o para ofrecerse como voluntario,
contact the Hispanic Committee of Virginia,
comuníquese con el Comité Hispano de Virginia,
helping everyone participate more fully in American society.
ayudando a todos a participar plenamente en la sociedad norteamericana.
Hey Lena, where's yours?
Would you notice if you were missing half your kidney function? According to the National Kidney Foundation, 20 million people have chronic kidney disease, and 20 million more may be at risk and not even know it. Anyone with high blood pressure, diabetes, or family history of chronic kidney disease is at risk. Early diagnosis is vitally important. To get the whole story, talk to your doctor and visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org or call for a free brochure. Because when it comes to chronic kidney disease, you might not know the half.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. and the United States and looking around the globe in 144 different nations and also on the 566 tribal nations across the United States. And so we're looking at how to bring the best of the best technologies of renewable energy and also how that brings about sanitation, water, food production, and the basic infrastructure of healthcare, education, and all the other things that are needed as we go to a planet of 9 billion people by 2050. And we have a gentleman who's actively working with the various nations out in the western part of the United States. And this is Mark E. Snyder. He is the president of Mark Snyder Electric and also the president of Global Solar Water Power Systems. And then sitting right beside me is Michael G. Lee, who is the senior partner for Tower Up Consulting. And I believe Mark's going to be coming in by telephone. Mark, are you with us?
Yes, I am, Dr. Sam.
Welcome again.
Thank you very much. I appreciate being on again.
Well, it's good to see you. We have your very handsome countenance here standing in front of all these wonderful tracking solar panels. And I know you have a mighty story to tell us, but give us a quick overview of Snyder Electric. And then how'd you bring about these connections with the different tribal nations out in the West?
Okay, well, briefly, Mark Snyder Electric is a 37-year-old company. I'm an electrical contracting company and renewable energy company. And I started in renewable energy as a teenager, actually in Sedona, Arizona, not far from where we've been working the Plateau Solar
Mark,
project.
hold on just a minute. Let's bring your photo up here. I'm not sure why we don't have it up yet. So
okay.
Hold on just a minute. Yeah, We've got your photo, but it's not here. Okay, go ahead. The engineers will bring it up in just a minute.
Sure, no problem. But I started my career in my teens in the late 1960s in Sedona, Arizona. We started doing unusual energy efficient and renewable houses with some solar. And then I ended up moving into the San Diego area, and I continued in the renewable industry in the early 70s and all the way till now. And I also, part of my business model is we do forensic work, fire, flood, and explosion work for the San Diego utility. That's been one of the major portions of our contracting business. And back in 2007, I started getting inquiries from the tribes and ended up being invited to do the first green extreme makeover on Navajo Nation. And I was very fortunate to meet Elsa Johnson, who I think of as my sister, and also Marshall Johnson. Both of them are wonderful people and just love their own people and also are avid renewable energy advocates. And so we started doing projects. In 2012, we did the Plateau Solar Project, which was 40 off-grid systems for Native Americans. And then we ended up getting the opportunity to do a microgrid at the Star School, which is one of the things that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, looking at this first diagram, we have this, I don't know if you can actually see it where you are, Mark, but we have this microgrid diagram. So if you go ahead and talk about the microgrid, how is that different than an off-grid system? And then what's, the advantages and disadvantages of each of these, the microgrid and the off-grid systems?
Well, the microgrid is a fascinating innovation, and it's being used all over the world today, especially in third world countries that do not have power grids. So what it is the combination of an off-grid system and an on-grid system, or an on-grid and a battery backup system. And the standard battery backup system is very similar, but on the microgrid, the particular microgrid that we used at the Star School was an SMA product called the Sunny Island. And it has a battery-based inverter system, and it also has a off-grid grid tie system. It's a Sunny Boy inverter that is programmed for off-grid, and it communicates with the Sunny Island. Now, there are several manufacturers that are making these systems now. Schneider Electric makes a unit called a Connex, which also does the same thing, and it also uses the SMA Sunny Island product. And the difference between this is that we do something called AC coupling of our loads. And what AC coupling is the on-grid inverter acts like the charge controller. And the on-grid inverter is a 600 volt high voltage technology, where our old legacy type units like the Outbacks and some of the earlier types of technologies were 125 volt technologies. So what we're able to do is, in times when there are a lot of clouds or dark days, the 600 volt technology stays engaged much longer. On a cloudy day, we can be producing 25 to 50% of our power, whereas a legacy system will only produce 5 or 10%. So there's great advantages to the microgrid. And also, battery usage is greatly minimized because when the grid tie inverters, which are programmed for off-grid to work with the microgrid, when they're working, they're transforming the power into AC power, and it's used by all the equipment, lights, heating systems, air conditioners, computers. It's transformed directly instead of having to go into a battery and then be drawn back out of the battery. So there's a great savings in batteries also.
That's fantastic. Well, what we're showing here is this Alpine School that you've worked on, and of course, we're going to be talking in depth about the Star School project. But I'm going to let Michael go ahead and you segue right into the perfect place that we need to be, Mark. And here's Mike.
Mark, it's really nice to be here again with you. Real briefly, because we've really got to move this along. Yeah. What best practices have been learned by creating the Star School microgrid system? And how can you best share these lessons learned with other communities and even other countries around the world?
Well, what we've learned on the Star School microgrid is that we could, and we used Native Americans, we used the crew that we had trained, 3 men and 3 women worked on this project that we trained on the earlier Plateau Solar project, all Native Americans. We learned that we could train people and we could produce a great finished product, and we could take a legacy system that wasn't working well at all and we could transform it. We increased the output of the system by 70% by creating a three-phase, from a single phase to a 3-phase microgrid.
Well, that's incredible productivity on all of that. So looking at expanding the solar power, I know that you're adding wind to these renewable systems as well. What do you think you're bringing to the various Native American nations in the West, but as best practices, examples that can then go to, across all 566 of the federally recognized Native American nations?
Yes, that's a very, very important point. What we've been learning is that my business model is that I train Native Americans so that we can leave in my wake contractors that can maintain the equipment and that can build new systems, and I work with them consulting and designing and assisting them. And this is a great lesson that we can spread to all the tribes, and this is very economical means of installing power, which can add power to 1 billion people globally and can take care of power for struggling tribes that don't have infrastructure, just like Navajo has. Navajo has 20,000 people that are off-grid.
Well, in many of the nations, the majority of the people are actually off-grid. So what you're doing is that you're really taking very advanced technologies, putting it among, in a sense, traditional peoples and locations, and leaping forward into the middle, almost the middle of the 21st century, where they'll be more advanced than most other communities that are totally dependent on grid-centric type of systems. But how do you find the funding, and what is the means for bringing funding into these projects, onto the nations, and then any of the other projects that you're working on, like the Star School and the Alpine School?
Well, what we have to do with the Alpine School, we were able to get federal funding through the Solar Schools program. With the Star School, we were fortunate enough to get a grant to be able to do the microgrid there, as we added it on to another grant that was available. And fortunately, they already had an infrastructure that we could work with. They just needed to go to the next level to where they had a super efficient, just supercharged solar and wind system.
Okay, very good. We're about running out of time. Mike's going to ask you a question. We need to answer it quickly. And then I want to go out with, what do you see for the next 5, 10, or 15 years? Michael?
Mark, long-term maintenance and technical expertise is most important in sustaining these programs. How are you leaving that to the next generation to handle?
Well, that's an important question and part of my mission. I'm getting older now. I'm in my early 60s, and I plan to keep doing this for probably another 10 years. But I want to leave in my wake, people that are very highly trained and capable. And with the Star School, we have a wonderful maintenance staff, Steve, Eris, and Marvin, that I've trained that are going to continue my work at Star School and be able to maintain the system so it's running long after I'm down the road working on other projects.
Yeah, fantastic. Next 5, 10 years, 5 seconds?
Next 5, 10 years, there are 1 billion people globally that need these microgrids.
You're going to be at it. Okay,
thank you for your work.
Mark E. Snyder, President, Mark Snyder Electric, President of the Global Solar Water Power Systems. Michael G. Lee, sitting right beside me, of Tower Up Consulting. Thank you for being with us as we look around the globe to create the Emerald Planet.
I helped turn my child's public school into a whole new kind of school. One with a curriculum that really motivates kids. One that has extended hours, 6 days a week, year-round. With loads of academic, cultural, and recreational activities. One that has support services like medical and dental right there. A school where parents' involvement is encouraged. Where teachers have more time to teach. And students are excited about learning. There's just one problem. My child doesn't ever want to come home. You can help turn your school into a community school for excellence. Find out how. Call 1-877-LOVE-TO-LEARN.
It's coming. Right to your neighborhood. And when it does, you may be surprised. It's your Social Security statement of your benefits, and it's going to help you plan your financial future. Your benefit statement will tell you how much Social Security you're eligible to receive and when you'll get it. Then you'll know how much you need to save for retirement, because that's coming too. The future is in your hands. Choose to save.
The toxic fumes from this meth lab are seeping into Jamie's sinus cavity. Ammonia vapors invade her throat. Toxic gases fill her lungs. Jamie's body is deteriorating. and she doesn't even know it.
Jamie, dinner.
So, who has a drug problem now? Find out how meth affects you at drugfree.org/.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we're looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technologies, the services, and the products that are making a difference as we go through the 21st century. And as we hit 2050, we have almost 9 billion people on the planet. How are we going to provide an increasing quality of life for all these people? And yet at the same time, we need to be reaching back and bringing forward all those that have been somewhat or totally left behind from the 20th into the 21st century. And many of these are on the 566 Native American nations around the United States, as well as many others within the inner city. So how do you balance that where you're going out to very remote areas to provide the most advanced as far as renewable energy, water, sanitation, food production, education, healthcare, and at the same time to leapfrog time so these people are connected to the greater world. And we have someone who's actually been working on this. She and her husband have put up what's called the STAR School. STAR stands for Service to All Relations, and I'm going to get Catherine, she goes by Kate Sorensen, to describe that for us. She's a co-founder. And then Michael G. Lee is sitting right beside me as our special guest and Skype backup. Mike, welcome as always to Emerald Planet.
Thank you, Sam. It's always good to be here.
And Kate, I think you're coming in by Skype.
That's right, Sam.
Oh, we're glad to have you. And I just want to let you know that we went on the website. Your overview is so well written that we're just going to put it totally on our website and put the whole thing there. It's very well written. And it's just amazing what you've been able to do there at Star School. So if you will, give us a little bit of the origin, the mission, the vision of the Star School. And then we have some fantastic photographs that we're going to be putting up as we chat. So anyway, Kate, welcome to the Emerald Planet TV.
Thank you. Yeah, well, my husband and I both worked on the Navajo Nation. We met in Rough Rock in 1978. And he's been a school administrator for nearly 40 years. So along the way, we started wondering what would it be like if we started a school using everything we knew, all of our resources, and how good an education could we provide for Navajo kids. So when the charter school movement started in the 90s, we knew that there was a way to make this dream come true. We started the Star School in 2001, and before that, my husband and our son did a 90-mile-a-day commute out to the reservation, the Little Singer School. So there was a personal motivation for making a really good school for our son and all the other kids.
Well,
that's how we started.
Go ahead.
Well, that's how we started, and we actually built the first building. We had to clear out a junkyard in this location and built our first building with personal credit cards and home mortgages and pieced it all together. But now the Star School is doing wonderfully. We've got 130 kids and an education that not only provides all the basics, the academics, so the kids can go to college or whatever else they want to do after high school, but it integrates Navajo culture. We really want to preserve and celebrate all of the Native American cultures and really cultures worldwide. So this week, we've had visitors from China, Africa, and all over the place, and things are really happening here.
I think it's absolutely fantastic what you're doing. And I know that you're next to the Navajo reservation that is near and dear to your heart, but why choose such a remote area that really is an off-grid location? And if we can bring up this first slide, this will give you an idea of what we're looking at. And this is really after you started putting up the solar. It was much more open to the elements than this. But anyway, why this off-grid site?
Well, this is where we've lived since 1990 on solar. Our place is actually 8 miles down a dirt road from here. So the Star School is on the pavement. We didn't think it was so remote, even though other people do, of course. We wanted to be near the Navajo Nation. We can't buy land. Nobody can buy land on the reservation. And so we are near the corner, the southwest corner of the Navajo Nation. And the nearest power lines just happen to be 10 miles away. So we knew from living on solar at our place, we knew it could be done, and that's what we did.
Well, it's and how do the students actually arrive at your school? Because
we have buses. We have buses that go all the way to Flagstaff and then out to the communities on the reservation.
Okay, so they are delivered. Michael, won't you ask the next question?
Kate, I want to tell you, I love your 4 R's.
Thank you. Yes.
Now, but the question, you created a renewable microgrid electric system to power the school. What were some of the key components which helped to create the functioning system?
Well, you know, Mark Snyder is really the expert on that. In fact, I learned some things just listening to him just now. My experience was going back to 1990. We've had a series of relative experts who we usually would get started where they'd come out and they'd tell us how the last experts were idiots and messed everything up and that they were going to fix it. And I can't count how many times that has happened until we finally got people who really know what they're doing. So thank you to Mark Snyder and his crew for that. This picture is one of the early days. We started with 1 bank of solar panels. I think this was the second. That's my husband Mark there with the students looking at the solar panels. So we've done it all in stages. You know, like I said, we started with personal credit cards. Then we got some other funding, and then we got emergency grant money because we kept building buildings and leapfrogging, building a building which exceeded our solar capacity, and then we would add more solar and wind. But it really took Mark Snyder and the microgrid, somebody who really knew what they were doing to pull all these pieces together.
Well, looking at this scene we have here, it's obvious that the children, and I would assume by extension the parents, are very aware of what's going on at the school about all this renewable energy. And so how are you involving the children and the faculty in the lessons that you're learning through going off-grid with your whole system? And at the same time, how you think this is going to carry forward into the future with these youth, their parents, and the tribal members, in the Navajo Nation?
Right. Well, there's some obvious opportunities, like a lot of science fair projects and solar-powered cars, and we make junkyard generators. Literally, the kids make power generators out of junk. So the idea of electricity is something that is generated. It doesn't just miraculously come out of the plug. That's one of the lessons. And the bigger picture is that our kids are more aware that everything comes from somewhere and it goes somewhere. You can throw things away, but there really isn't any away here. I mean, we have a dumpster, and we're still working on having only the things that we can't recycle go into that dumpster. But just being aware that there is so much solar power, and so, hey, turn off the lights when you leave the room. Some of these things seem really simple and obvious, but working with human beings, it's always an ongoing challenge to make it simple enough so that people make it all work. And just using what we need and not wasting it is a huge part of what we're doing here, and what I think would benefit the whole world. If we just stop wasting, then we'll have more time to develop these renewable technologies.
Well, we're looking at this vast open area here, which is again on your campus, but also you're sitting in what looks like a very beautiful multi-purpose room for education, also a library. Tell us a little bit about the school itself. If we were walking around campus, what would we see? And our understanding is that you're running all the electricity by renewables, and then I guess you have propane backup as far as the heating is concerned, because I assume that's probably a very cold area in the wintertime. But what will we see there? And this is just a marvelous footprint that you have that you're powering by renewable energy.
Well, thank you. We're a mile high, so even though it's in Arizona, it does get cold. Sometimes it snows. We started with quick and cheap as possible with a modular building. We tried to make it look nice, so it's got stucco. But then it's been a series of trying different building technologies. We've got a straw bale building. That's an art studio and multi-purpose building. with a greenhouse. We've got a rostra block building. And in the picture, that's a gymnasium, which in the early days was, I would tease my husband. He'd be talking about our gym and like, well, where are we going to get a gym? But, with hustling, a lot of hustling, grant writing, and looking for every opportunity to expand, we do have a gym. And that was when it was under construction. We've been pretty much under construction the whole 14 years, but that's one of the things we like to do.
Well, and that speaks well for the growth of your school. And something that we didn't really talk about as far as the questions early on, how involved are the parents with what's going on campus and the involvement of the Navajo Nation itself with the Star School?
Well, parents are involved. In fact, I had to move from where I was set up in a community kitchen area. I was all set up for the test for today, and then a bunch of parents and kids came in to make enchiladas. So I had to move into the library here. We have, a lot of parents who are really involved. We hope they feel welcome here. We feed everybody, no matter what. We don't, most of our kids do qualify for free and reduced lunches because of poverty rates, but we don't, anybody who shows up, we feed people. We're happy to see them. And we really want parents to feel at home here because they are welcome.
Well, I was raised on a very large ranch in Southwest Virginia, and we did the same thing. If they were on the property, then they got fed, almost no matter what time of the day. We have just about run out of time. Michael, do you have one last question you'd like to ask? And we need to answer this very quickly.
Just real quickly, I know that there have been challenges with the microgrid. How have you been able to deal with those?
Yes, challenges, not so many now because we've actually had things designed that work together. That was big, where before that we were trying to piece everything together that didn't always fit. So, there's our most recent set of solar panels, and really, the technical part, you can talk to Mark and get the whole picture from him. But our part, my husband Mark is busy doing the funding, and I'm busy trying to get people to use what we actually benefit from and don't waste it so that we can stay on the solar. And we run the propane generator very little now, which is terrific.
It's just fantastic. And we're going to lose you just about right now, Kate, but this has really been very informational. And thank you for sharing so much about the STAR School, which the STAR stands for Service to All Relations. Catherine Kate Sorensen. She's the co-founder with her husband, and sitting right beside me is Michael G. Lee, who is here representing Tower Up Consulting. And thank you for being with us as we look around the globe to create the Emerald Planet.
Some dreams are universal. Dreams that inspire us. Multiple sclerosis is a devastating disease that changes lives forever. The National MS Society does more for people with MS than any organization in the world. But we can't do it alone. To get involved, visit us online at nationalmssociety.org. or call 1-800-FIGHT-MS. This is why we're here. Because nobody dreams of having multiple sclerosis.
What's wrong with this picture? Half of young Americans can't locate economic powers like Japan and India. 20% can't even find the Pacific Ocean. Without geography, our children aren't ready for the world. Geography is everywhere. It's incredible creatures, rhythm, fashion, flavor. It's economics and politics. It's change. Understanding connections between people and places is critical in the 21st century. That's why we created mywonderfulworld.org. Go there now for your free parent and teacher action kits. and give our kids the power of global knowledge. Because kids who understand our world today can succeed in it tomorrow.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet and Emerald Planet TV. I'm Dr. Sam Hancock, the President and Executive Director of Emerald Planet and also the Director and host for the Emerald Planet TV. We come to you on a week-to-week basis, bringing you what we call the best of the best practices that are making a difference as we go through the 21st century, as we have a planet that's going from 7 to 9 billion souls. And so how do we reach into the future and be sure that we're providing an increasing quality and standard of living for people that are not even on the planet yet, but also reaching back, just like with the 566 federally recognized tribes, the nations around the United States, to make sure that they have the best practices as well. And so we have a gentleman coming on who's been very intimately involved over a number of years out in the western part of the United States, working with the Navajo, the Hopi, and some other Indian nations out there. This is Daniel. He goes by Danny Begay. He's the president. And also he's the chief training officer for his own organization, Begay Construction Company. And he's also been working and trained with Mr. Mark Snyder, who is very much involved in providing solar and water and all the other infrastructure the nations to the west, along with Elsa Johnson and the work that's going on there. So, and then Michael G. Lee, who's sitting right beside me and is the special Skype backup. And Mike, we always welcome you to Emerald Planet TV.
Always nice to be here,
Good
Sam. Thank you.
And Danny, I think you're coming in by telephone, correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay, we have your photograph here, and welcome to the Emerald Planet TV. And you're working with a wonderful human being, or human beings, I should say, out there, as far as Mike Snyder and Elsa Johnson, and then the Sorensens at the Star School. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. The people you're working with, and they say you have actually done most of the training for the people from the various tribes. So we thank you for that, and also say congratulations for your outstanding service. But tell us a little bit about Begay Contracting, how you got started, and then the link in with all these outstanding people that you're working with there for the Navajo and the Hopi nations.
I started contracting out here as just a local independent contractor, and I met Mark 8 years ago, and he's the one that got me into the solar contracting.
Well, I tell you, it's he seems to have a very long reach out there and is touching many, many people in very positive ways. But he speaks very highly of you and said that you're really instrumental in doing the training. So through your organization, you're an independent contractor. You're working, most of these projects, of course, are very competitive, but at the same time, you're doing the training, and that really is a multi-generational give back, not only to the nations, but the local communities. So what possessed you to devote all that amount of time and energy, but also resources to do this type of training and preparing the next generations?
Well, there's a lot of people out here that don't really know anything about solar, and it's just great to actually give them some of my skills to train them and learn about their systems. Most of the ones that we train are the locals where we put up the systems so they can maintain their own systems, which will last longer for them. Most of the systems out here, their lifespan is like less than a year, and with the training that we provide them, the systems we put up have been going on for a little over years now.
And that's fantastic. And of course, you know, having a very strong aftermarket service and also providing the needed spare parts, you know, in a sense, almost instantly, having your own supply chain is really very important to maintain these very hardy, but still at the same time delicate. But you're in a really harsh environment out there. Tell us a little bit about the systems and some of the conditions that you had to work in over these years, and then I'm going to let Michael go with his next question.
I guess the main thing that we encounter is the heat that the solar batteries go through, the constant heating up and the cooling down, and the harsh winters. So we had to try to build a system where we put the battery in a little structure where it's self-contained, where it heats in the wintertime and cools in the summertime, which makes the batteries last longer and the system last a whole lot longer.
Well, that's fantastic. Michael, why don't you ask the next question?
Danny, what you're dealing with there is found all over the world, actually. The maintenance on the equipment that's installed is usually the part that falls off, and then they have to go find other equipment. Tell us a little bit about your life on the Navajo Nation. What's special about the life out there, and the things that you've been training for, and how that is important to your nation for the future.
Well, I grew up in the Navajo camp without running water and electricity. Those were all a treat to everybody. That's what everybody wants, electricity and running water. So basically, my life was hauling water and living off of kerosene camps. So when you see people that don't have running water and electricity, it reminds you of growing up and living without all those, and it makes you feel obligated to help your people in that way. We're both here nodding our heads because Michael and I both work overseas. I've been in 84 countries, and actually I've been on a number of the Native American nations around the United States, and you know, it's a challenge everywhere. But looking at Mark Snyder of Mark Snyder Electric out of California, and he's coming out to your area there in Arizona and helping. How do you see the work that he's doing and the work that you're now doing, you know, like with the Alpine School, the Star School? How's all this really advancing renewable resources to the nations, but also for the greater community itself? Mark Snyder had vision when I first met him 8 years ago. Him and Elsa wanted to give electricity and running water to our elders out here. And since with my skills, it kind of worked out for him. So I knew how to build a house from the ground up, and me learning all this solar stuff from Mark Snyder. Since the solar industry is going to start booming pretty soon here out on the reservation, because it's hard to get electricity up here, and it's more of a have to know somebody in order to get power lines and water out here. A lot of system going on.
So looking at the work that you've been doing, Danny, as far as, and I've just got this little list in front of me, the solar PV, solar thermal, solar hot air, and wind power, you know, those are very advanced, sophisticated technologies. And just like we were talking with the co-founder of the Star School, it's that you can now have learned how to develop these systems like we just see in the background there in the photograph. You and Mark Snyder and the assistant that you have, these are doing marvelous things in very harsh environments. So now that you've actually been able to introduce this and learn these technologies through the schools and through some of the homes, working with Elsa Johnson of the ENA Solutions, how do you see the other families on the nation, the Navajo Nation right there, how are they reacting, and are they getting in line in order to have access to these solar systems and wind as well?
I lost you there.
Now, I was just asking about the other families that are not currently being served through the renewable energy sources of wind and solar. How is this advancing, or what are the next steps in working with Elsa Johnson of the ENA Solutions on taking this to even more families there on the Navajo Nation?
I guess the next step is what we need mainly is the funding, and that's the only way this will advance a little more. It's mainly just all about the funding. If we have the funding, we can help more people.
Well, and that's one of the reasons you're on here. And Michael, that relates to your question.
Danny, how do you, first of all, how do you like the renewable energy business, or do you?
Oh, I like it a lot. It's rewarding.
Danny, what's the next direction? Where are you going next with the renewables?
And how can the viewing public get involved, Danny, with you and Elsa and everyone else that's working out there?
Just like I said, if we can get more funding, that's the whole key to what we're doing.
And so that's really the key for the next 5, 10, 15 years then, I guess, for Begay Construction and also for ENA Solutions and all the work that you're doing. Danny, thank you for being with us.
Yeah.
We're going to be losing you now as we go out. And Danny, thank you for being. This was Danny Begay of Danny Begay Construction. Michael G. Lee. Michael, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Sam. It was a
pleasure. Being back
pleasure,
on Emerald Planet TV. And this has really been fascinating to look at these nations and what's going on out there. And thank you for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet.